Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. I'm Chamaka Ohauchi. On assumption of office, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu constituted a committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms headed by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele with a clear mandate. It is gratifying to note that the FIRS has been proactive in recent years, towing the same path that the president is asking the committee to chart. Call it a meeting of minds, and you will not be wrong. In the next few episodes of this program, we'll be looking at what the FIRS has been doing in the last couple of years to bolster Nigeria's revenue profile, which, as you will find, is a clear indication that even before the setting up of the panel, the service has been on the right path. Nigeria is currently experiencing a heavy debt burden, even as she is not earning sufficient foreign exchange from export of crude oil due to theft and vandalism, which have combined to make it impossible to meet the country's OPEC production quota. Against this background, it has become imperative to look inwards. The Federal Inner Revenue Service, especially in the last 4 years, has been in the forefront of this quest for domestic revenue mobilization, and the results are clear for all to see. Annual revenue collections by the FIRS in the last 10 years have shown a consistent increase. And that has not been by stroke of luck, but by deliberate efforts aimed at upping the ante. There have been deliberate efforts which have yielded results made to increase the ratio of non-oil tax over and above oil tax collections. There have also been deliberate efforts made to increase earnings from indirect taxes over and above direct taxes. In this regard, we are talking about indirect taxes like value-added tax, like stamp duties, like electronic money transfer levy. It is common knowledge that what the FIRS collects is collected on behalf of the federating units, federal, state, and local governments, and not the federal government, as you can see on your screen. There are sharing formulae for value-added tax, electronic money transfer levy, as well as many other taxes. Of course, every month, the federating units come together at the FAC meeting to collect what rightfully belongs to them. Again, as you'll find on your screen, in the last 5 years to 1 decade, the FIRS has contributed the greatest percentage of distributable revenue at FAC meetings. So, a few questions arise. What has been responsible for the giant stride being made at the FIRS? What is the FIRS doing right? Beginning from this episode, we will begin to answer these questions. We'll be looking at the fruits of reform at the FIRS. Of course, the man at the helm of affairs, the man of the moment, is Mr. Muhammad Nami, Executive Chairman FIRS, Chairman Joint Task Board, and President Qatar. On Thursday, the 16th of January 2020, the Muhammad Nami-led board of the FIRS was inaugurated at the boardroom of the Federal Minister of Finance in Abuja. At that occasion, Mr. Nami clearly mapped out what is now popularly known as the 4 cardinal pillars of his administration.
Let me assure you that I intend to build on achievement of my predecessors in office while building a tax administration that would not only deliver on its mandate, but also that we shall all be proud of. Our efforts to reposition the service for better service to our esteemed taxpayers will be anchored on 4 cardinal pillars. 1, rebuilding FIRS institutional framework. 2, robust collaboration with stakeholders. 3, building a customer taxpayer-centric institution. 4, data-centric institution.
Closely following the inauguration of the board, Mr. Nami presided over the 2020 Corporate Plan Retreat, which was held in Abuja from 6th to 8th of February 2020. Once again, he took the opportunity to share his vision with management and staff of the service.
Since I assumed office as the Executive Chairman of Federal Inland Revenue, We have revisited the organization structure of the service to reflect management aspirations. We have agreed with my team that in the next 4 years, we will improve our performance on a long-term and sustainable basis. We have given ourselves a minimum target of $5 million staff to revenue ratio and 10% tax GDP ratio over the next 4 years.
Agenda setting from the onset. We are looking at the ongoing reforms at the FIRS, reforms that have set Nigeria on the path of progress. Mr. Kabir Abba is the Coordinating Director, General Tax Operations Group at the FIRS. This interview and others that will follow in this series were conducted in the year 2022. So we are looking at reforms at the FIRS in the last couple of years. Please share with us the reforms carried out by the service and how they have impacted tax revenue collection or tax revenue generation and mobilization in Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much. You see, when this current administration came on board under our able chairman, Muhammadu Nemi, FIRS was in some kind of, disarray, so to say. But he came up with 4 cardinal objectives that he wanted to achieve. And thus far, he has achieved those objectives. So one of them, of course, is rebuilding the institutional framework of the service. Functions were clearly defined, and of course, departments were, properly delineated, and offices were segmented because we have threshold for our offices. We categorized them into what we call the large taxpayers offices, the medium tax offices, micro and small. That is to say, any company whose turnover is above 2 billion naira is categorized under the large tax, taxpayers office category. While those with a turnover of 500 million to 2 billion naira are now categorized under the medium tax office, while 500 million naira and below are what we call the micro and small tax offices. So these taxpayers were categorized based on this turnover segmentations, and this has actually helped us to concentrate on our major players in terms of tax payment. Even amongst the large tax offices, we have further gone to segregate them based on industry, because we have the LTO, innovation and construction industry. So all the financial institutions also categorized them into one and now open what they call the large tax payers office in the financial sector. Likewise, telecommunications, they also have their own category. So in that manner, we now clearly define where our taxpayers belong to. That is one of the reforms that this current administration had brought to fore. The second one, of course, is collaboration with our various stakeholders, because we have noticed that over time, FIRS is the responsibility of all to come together to get the necessary revenues for government, and we can't do it alone. So we have our own critical stakeholders, prominent amongst, say, the Corporate Affairs Commission. We have the Joint Tax Board, the NFIU, the CBN, the Ministry of Finance, and all that. They are our critical stakeholders in the service that also, have done so much to come together. So the third cardinal principle or objective of the EC, of the executive chairman, is to make FIRS, a customer-centric organization. You see, in all our field offices, and we have a lot of them, across the country, we have what we call the help desk in each office, where customers' complaints and questions are being attended to. So there's a help desk, at every point in the office. And we have our helplines where you can place a call and your issues will be addressed. We also went further to create what we call the contact center, where taxpayers from the comfort of their homes and offices can place a call in different languages. We have it in Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, French, English, and still counting, where their issues can be addressed. So all these measures in the last 2 years have actually made FIRS a customer-centric organization, and customers are not happy to voluntarily come forward to, to declare their income and pay the necessary taxes. So the last but not the least, of course, is to make FIRS a data-centric organization as well too. You see, data, they say, is the is the oil of the future, because we now notice that without data, we can't really do much. So we even created a dedicated department called the Data Mining Department, where we plug into so many sources of information about our taxpayers, because the tax regime we operate is what we call the self-assessment regime, where taxpayers are allowed to go do their businesses, come and self-assess themselves, self-declare, and pay the necessary taxes. So we now have to now go back to see if such declarations are actually done properly. So that department was dedicated. So these 4 cardinal objectives of the EC has actually taken us, to a very great height compared to where we're coming from prior to his coming on board.
I'm a very busy man. My business involves a lot of traveling and I interface with lots and lots of people and organizations. Tax compliance used to be a big drag on my business. It was time-consuming and very costly. But now, no more. Introducing the FIRS Tax Pro Max, the truly fully end-to-end tax administration solution for companies' income tax, value-added tax, petroleum profits tax, and all other tax types. For fast, efficient, and convenient end-to-end tax experience, log on to www.taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. Tax Promax has turned things around for me. It is fast, user-friendly, and cost-effective. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC.
Mr. Matthew Bojumbola is the Coordinating Director, Compliance Support Group at the FIRS. At the time this interview was conducted, Mr. Bojumbola was the Group Lead, Special Tax Operations Group. So we are looking at reforms at the FIRS in the last few years. Let us begin with tax policy, which is considered as the primary leg of the tripod that's talking about policy, law, and administration. So in the area of tax policy, what policy objective is FIRS pushing in the pursuit of her mandates?
Thank you very much. First of all, the issue of tax policy is with the Honorable Minister of Finance, who drives the whole fiscal policy for the country. Of course, we assist by providing data with information and also feedback from taxpayers, which again goes back into the bag to come up with kind of policies that will drive the objective of government. Now, as to FIRS, as an administrator, we also realize that we can't just administer without also have internally what drives us, in addition to the policy objective of government as enunciated by the Honorable Minister of Finance. And so part of what we did as management is to begin to see how to grow indirect taxes. And that was why at the very early stage of this administration, issues around value-added tax, issues around stamp duties, they all came up as primary way of driving revenue because we realized that direct taxes, which is based on profits that are made by businesses, are very volatile. Volatile in the sense that if we have cost-pushed inflation, the profits of businesses will suffer. And therefore, direct taxes derivable from those profits are also going to suffer. Whereas consumption will always go on. People will always execute contracts and all of that. So that enabled us to say we can actually grow the overall revenue, even if there is a seeming loss from direct taxes, we can compensate with indirect taxes. So that became one of the major policy thrusts that we embarked upon. Then part of also our policy thrust was to move away from manual way of administration and to deliberately move on to automation, which again we have embarked upon since the beginning of this administration. Part of the result of that is the Tax Pro Max, which FIRS used its own officer to develop. That also talks about the automation we are witnessing in the area of value-added tax, in the area of stamp duties, in the area of accounting for revenue collected, and all of those other segments of our administration. So it was a deliberate tax policy shift embarked upon by the management for us to be able to grow our revenue, ensure that the revenue of government does not shrink, even when profitability may be shrinking.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, how have these policies influenced the kinds of legislations that are enacted?
Yeah, thank you very much. And as you actually rightly mentioned during your opening question, that taxation is on a tripod of policy, legislation, and administration. And the starting point with policy is to say, this is the direction we are pursuing. The essence of legislation is to say, this is how you will do it. And so once it was government's policy to grow indirect taxes, then definitely the laws have to change. For example, the Value Added Tax Act had been amended 3 years in a row to pave way for a growing revenue from that sector. For example, we have had to rewrite completely some of the sections in that law that actually make it clear what is taxable for VAT in Nigeria, what time does the tax arise. We have also amended to enable persons who are not physically resident in Nigeria, but who are providing services to persons in Nigeria to also charge VAT and remit same. We have amended the relevant law to accommodate that. We have reviewed the penalties for non-compliance with the law. All of this we have done for VAT. Part of what has been done along that line is also some reviews made to the Stamp Duties Act. For example, we have changed the provision as to what is supposed to be a dutiable document. Before now, we've always seen dutiable document in respect of physical documents, but laws have been amended to accommodate electronic documents. So actually, we don't need to do physical stamping like we used to do, just to ensure that we bring the laws up to date, and then we are also able to make compliance easy for our taxpayers.
Please share with us the reforms carried out by the service in the area of simplifying the administrative process of the service.
Yeah, thank you very much. Since the coming into being of this current management, there have been a number of changes internally to be able to achieve the policy goal and objectives. Starting with issue of staffing. The first thing this administration did, and this management did, was to place everyone in the places, in the functions where they are better suited to serve. The current management believes no officer is useless. Only that sometimes people find themselves in functions for which they are not suited. And so that was the first reform that we did in respect of human capital management, by identifying the unique abilities of every officer and then placing them where they will function most. That was the first thing that this management did. The second thing we did in respect of our personnel was some officers have been stagnated in terms of promotion and advancement in career for some years, not due to no fault of theirs, I mean, because there were limitations in vacancies available to which officers could be promoted to. And so what the management had done is to expand the cadres and then make chances for people to be promoted. And even during the time of the coronavirus lockdowns, management agreed with board to even promote officers to ensure that those who have been on one spot for so long due to the issue of vacancy were advanced. And that has boosted the morale of officers such that people were willing to go the extra mile to help the service achieve its mandate. And that's why you will see in the past 3 years of this administration, even during extreme lockdowns and difficulties, the service was consistently meeting its target. That's what we got when we have officers who have sufficiently motivated to do their job. So we have reforms in the area of staffing, positioning, promotion, career advancement, and all of that. Internally, part of what the management also did was to restructure the administrative units of the service. Before, there was just one group. Now we have 7 groups with different departments and functions to ensure that different segment of the business has adequate attention from people who are knowledgeable and who are experienced enough to man them. And we also came up with some specialized functions. For example, my group is called the Special Tax Operations Group. And underneath that, we have 5 departments. And then within those departments, we have 3 departments that are brand new. We never had them before. For example, we have a department that has to do with data, nothing more than data acquisition, data analysis, and matching of data to taxpayer profiles. We have another department that is responsible for managing our tax incentives, because our laws give some incentive depending on the conditions. And so the question is, how much does Nigeria lose every year by way of those incentives? So we have a whole function that is there now managing those incentives, determining how much we lose by way of granting those incentives, and ensuring that people are not abusing them. And for those who abuse them, we ensure that they pay the tax back to the Federation. And then we have what we call an emerging and special taxes, which is also looking at, number one, the taxes we are administering. Are there better ways we can do them? And that is where we now see that we saw that we can actually automate stamp duties and put everything on automation. We can automate our VAT and have less interaction with persons. And also look at, are there other areas of generating revenue that we could identify and then advise government? So these are brand new functions that we never had before as part of the restructuring of the administrative apparatus of the service. And then we have also had to decide to move away from manual way of doing things. Because we have realized that the less involvement of persons in the process, the more efficient we are, the more transparent we are, and the more we are able to satisfy our customers, that's the taxpayers, with time and speed. So it's part of what we have made, and I'm sure some of my colleagues who are in charge of that will be able to speak to you in details as to what we have done. But it is now it's what all of us know, the tax pro max, the effect is having, the VAT automation, the effect is having, and by the time we are done bringing everybody on board, there will be less fuse as to whether some people are evading VAT or not. And then positive and continuous engagement with our stakeholders. And this is yielding very wonderful results for us. I mean, we engage with the taxpayers. We have the Manufacturing of Nigeria. We have the OPTS. We have the LCCI. We have the tax practitioners. We engage. We have professional bodies, ICANN, CITN, ANAN, we are always engaging. And what that has done for us is that it is making our taxpayers to trust us more, because we have created the opportunity for them to air their voice, and we have taken their concerns, and many times we have had to change based on the comments or input we have received from these stakeholders. So this is building for us a sort of confidence with our taxpayers and other tax practitioners, and it's making compliance a lot easier and also growing revenue.
We are sure you agree with us that so much is happening at the FIRS. Indeed, the reforms are bearing fruits. Join us next episode on this same station, same day of the week, for the continuation of the series. Thank you for watching. See you next week.